Well, a very good evening, very good Wednesday evening, and if it's like it is where I am, it's a very wet day. Right, so we have a couple of people on board, a couple of people watching, a couple of people commenting, so that's absolutely great. And today I'm talking all about clay. Now I do see that the lovely Catherine Stoic is watching, or maybe she's left now to get a tea, I don't know. But hi there, Catherine. I'm sure if there's anything I miss, then I'm sure Catherine will be able to jump in and help as well. So please feel free to comment as much as you like, ask as many questions as you like. I've had a couple of questions asked to me. I'm hopefully going to be covering absolutely everything, and if I do forget, please remind me that I have 2 lots of clay in my pocket keeping warm. I'll explain all of that in a couple of moments. So let's just have a look. Who do we have on board? We have Julie, we have Fiona, we have Ian, we have Shaz, we have Joan, we have Sharon, we have Judith, and I think we said, did we say Joan again? All watching. Great, thank you so much for taking the time of the day to come and watch us. Right, so what are we talking about? We are talking about clay, and I'm sure you realise that that is one of the things that is that I'm really passionate about. So it can be Hearty Clay, it can be your quick cure clay, and even stone art. What's stone art? Well, stone art is a product that is basically a powder that you can get from Powertex, and if you mix that with Powertex, and if you don't know what Powertex is basically a fabric hardening product. If you mix it with their stone art, you can actually make your own clay. So let's have a look. We've got Valerie who has joined us as well. Fiona is saying hello to a couple of people, so that's great. Everyone is on board. So like I say, I'm going to be hopefully covering lots of questions. I've had a couple of questions asked to me. I've put a couple of questions as well that I'm going to run through, because I know there's a lot of people out there who possibly struggle with using air drying clay and a couple of the other clays. Admittedly, I'm not overly knowledgeable about polymer clay, so I might just like skip over that a little bit. But as to all the other clays, I think I might just be able to answer some of the questions. So first of all, if you have got any questions that you didn't put on the Crafting Together with All Brands Facebook group page under my post, or indeed under my own post on my own page, then please feel free to pop a post up in the comments with a question, and hopefully, like I say, I will be able to answer. Right, so without further ado, let's talk about clay. Right, well, let's talk about clay. Like I say, I've got a couple of different ones here. I've mentioned to you about stone art. Stone art is quite a specialised clay, and as I've mentioned, if you mix that with Powertex, you can create your own clay. I'm sure there's going to be lots of demonstrations on YouTube, so please go ahead and look at that. I've actually mixed my own stone art clay before, when I attended a Powertex party back a couple of summers ago. And believe me, it's a really great clay and just so easy to use, and it doesn't stick in any mould as far as I know. So that's a real great one. If you're into your Powertex, then go for stone art. Right, so I'm just going to pop that down. Another clay is the quick cure clay. So this clay is actually set by basically using a heat tool, and then basically there's a thermographic reaction that then runs across the clay, and hey presto, it's set. It's really that quick. But what I'd say is, I personally wouldn't recommend you actually using that in your mould and setting the clay in your mould, because what I found, I think it's the thermographic reaction is probably a little bit too hot for a lot of different types of moulds, and it would deteriorate the usage of your molds. Just bear that one in mind. So, do you know what? I'm going to pop to the questions straight away. Hopefully we've got one. And this one is from Samantha Jane Lane. and she's asking what's the difference between the said clays. So basically, if you're going to be wanting to decorate something sort of like that's going to be used for indoor purposes, then I would definitely recommend the Hearty Clay, or indeed the other clay, which is this one here. Let me just grab this one. So this one is an air drying polymer clay. Now the difference between the normal Hearty Clay and the Medina Clay is that this one is really for indoor use, where this one, the Modena Clay, can actually be used for outdoor use. Okay, so the difference in them is basically this one is made, which is the Hearty Clay, this is made from a paper pulp and also a glue. So really nice and easy to use. I'll be using that one in a couple of demonstrations, as I will with the Modena Clay, just to show you the difference there. So the Modena Clay can actually be used to decorate projects that are going to go outside, because it is totally waterproof. So the other clay that I've mentioned also was the Stone Art Clay. That is another great clay, and that can be used for projects outside, because the Paratex actually is weatherproof within 3 weeks. Now another clay that I'm sure a lot of you are aware of is this one here, which is Das Clay. I've actually fallen in love with Das Clay a little bit. Really nice and easy to use, available from lots of shops in the high street, especially the Works, I do believe, but you can get it in the range as well. So I'll be showing you a couple of uses of that. And then we've also got this one here, which is the Prima modelling material. I'm not sure if it's readily available over here, but it's a pretty good clay as well, and I'll be just showing you how to use that one as well. Right, so that is basically the difference between the clays, and again, this one here cannot be put outside unless you seal it, okay? But I'll explain that, because there's another question coming up a little bit later. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about the clay? Like I say, put them in the comments and I will get to them as soon as I can. Right, so the next question we have here is this one. Okay, so this one's from Laura. Laura wants to know how to use coloured clays, or how to colour clays without it changing how the clay feels. Well, I sort of get what you mean there. Obviously the easiest way to colour the clay is basically to cast something and then to paint over it. You can be using any types of paints or mediums that you currently use on your paper crafting projects, so that's really good. But how do you actually colour it otherwise? So like Laura's asking, so it's the same. So I've already got some clay already open here. Okay, so the one I'm going to be using is the good old Hearty Clay, which is this one. You can see I've already unwrapped it, but there is another clay out there, and that's the FMM Bright and Light Clay. Okay, those two clays are really similar. Hi there, Sam. I have just answered your question if you didn't see, and Caroline is saying that she loves Das Clay. No cooking. I don't work well with ovens. Does that mean for cooking as well? I don't know. Right, so like I say, these two clays are virtually the same. Okay, so whatever I say for this one will work with the FMM Bright and Light Clay. So there's a couple of different ways to colour it. You could be using some of the coloured clays from Hearty as well. So let's just grab a little bit of clay. Okay, I'm just going to go for a little bit here, and then we're just going to add some colour. So this is what Laura's asking. So this is basically not going to change the look or the feel, okay, of the clay. So with the coloured clay, it is very highly pigmented. Okay, so you need hardly any. You can see if I just roll that up, okay, you can see how small that little bit is there. Okay, so we've got a fair size of the white clay. So quite easily, you're just going to pop that in there and then just knead that in your fingers, okay, like so. So let's just go over there, okay, and it's quite easy to knead that in, okay. So just keep on until you basically don't see any of the streakiness from the coloured clay, if that makes sense. Okay, so just keep on mixing that in, okay, and hey presto, you are done. Really nice and easy to do. But there is another way of colouring clay, so that's one way there. So I'm just going to pop that aside. We're going to grab some more white clay, okay, and we're this time going to be using a medium. So I'm just going to grab this one here. Okay, so we've got some Distress Oxide inks. It's going to work with normal Distress inks, and it will also work with sort of anything that is water based. Okay, so literally just take the pad off, pop that onto there, okay, and that is also going to colour like so. Hi there, Jill. Yep, good evening, Jill. Jill has joined us. Jill, by the way, is on, I was going to say the craft store, but it's actually Create and Craft. So Jill's going to be on Create and Craft tomorrow. I do believe it's a 5 o'clock show, and it is one that you shouldn't miss. It's all about pent art and some of their beautiful mediums that they actually do. So you can see there we have now coloured, okay, another piece of Hearty Clay using just simply Distress Oxide inks. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that back into my little tray there. Right, let's just have a look. We have got Kirsty who has joined us. Hi there, Kirsty. Glad you could join us. We've also got Dominique. And let's have a look. Caroline says, hi there, feeling a bit better, thanks. Oh, you've been feeling poorly. Oh, that's a shame. I hope you feel better now. Right, so we've got those two colours. I'm just going to pop those into one. Okay, so we're going to make something as well. So you can see that's how easy it is to colour the clay if you haven't got sort of any acrylic paints, but you have got things like I said, the oxides or the distress. Okay, so the main rule is, okay, when you're using Hearty Clay, if you're putting any dampness into it, so in other words, like a water-based product like we've just done, so you're making the clay a little bit more wet, then you should really allow it to just dry out just a little bit. So let's have a look. Oh, Jill says she's on Cranecraft 5 PM, but also live on Cranecraft Extra. Oh, absolutely fantastic. So that's channel 673 at 1 PM. So there we go. So we've just mixed that one up. Now obviously, because this is air dry clay, if you're not going to be using it for a while, then just make sure that you wrap it up nice and securely and pop it in one of these little Ziploc airtight bags. Okay, and here we go, just get as much air as possibly out, and hey presto, we are done. Right, so I think we're on question 3 now. Let's see what question 3 actually is. So Claire is asking how to store the coloured clays as they seem to dry out quicker than the white. Indeed, they do, Claire. Now there is a reason that they dry out. Hi there, Linda. Linda's just come on. She's like, first time watching. I'm SC Booker now, but have this in my craft room. I'm not sure I can decipher that one. You have to try that one again, Linda. So I'm not too sure what SC means. SC, not too sure. Right, so about the coloured clays. Okay, so let me just grab something if I can find it. Okay, so I do have somewhere about, or do I? Maybe I don't. Right, okay. Right, I'll just grab the pink one, which was in here, the magenta, as they call it. Okay, so with these ones here, okay, the reason they do dry out quicker is because they're actually not really classed as a clay. Yes, they may say clay actually on the packet, but they're not as such. They are just really just a pigment to be used to colour the white clay. So if you actually use the clay direct from here, okay, well, I'm saying clay, but as I said, it's not really clay, it's more of a pigment, but we just call it clay for argument's sake. If you pop that into your mould and then you try to cast something, yes, you will get a very good representation, but you'll find that the cast you've actually made is really, really brittle. And that's because the actual amount of pigment to clay ratio in there, the clay ratio is very, very low, where in the white it's very, very high. So always mix that in, okay, to make it really strong. But storing it, okay, I'm going to say again, just pop it into an airtight bag. But do you know what? You can actually be putting Hearty Clay in the freezer, okay? And if you have a look on my YouTube channel, you'll actually find that my YouTube page is, let's have a look, this one just here. So if you go over to my YouTube channel and you look up the freezer technique, I'll explain to you in that video how you can actually find how you can actually use the Hearty Clay, the FMM clay and the DAS clay by popping it into your freezer. But I wouldn't be surprised, you know, that if you actually pop the Hearty coloured clay into there, it will preserve it. Yes, put it into an airtight bag, okay, but I reckon that if you pop it into your freezer, it's probably gonna be okay, but like I say, it's one of those things you're gonna have to try just to make sure. But that's, I would say, Claire, probably the best way to do that. So let's have a look. Who else is, come on, very kind of you. Hi there, Jill. Let's have a look. Laura is watching. Laura, you're late. Oh my goodness, let's have a look. I was making kebabs with the kids. Oh my goodness me, I hope you didn't skewer them. Right, well, Laura, we have actually answered your question already, which I think was question number 2, so please head on over there at the end of the live just to see. Right, I do believe we are on question 4 now. Okay, let's have a look. All right, okay. Jan is asking, hi Anthony, can you make ADC air dry clay waterproof? I'm making some small vases and pots and would love to occasionally put live flowers in them. Right, okay, that's a really good question. Now, to be honest with you, you cannot make any types of pots with the Hearty Clay or the FMM Bright Light Clay, okay? It's definitely a no-no, but you could be making pots with the good old DAS clay. The thing is with DAS clay, and you're probably going to shout at me now, but I've got to do it. This is something that I cast from a Prima mould, okay, using DAS clay. It was a terracotta, but it's available in 3 colours, white, stone and terracotta. Now the thing with DAS clay is, it's for one, it can be coated to make it waterproof, and you need polyurethane varnish, okay, to actually go over that. But the real downside to using DAS clay to make a vase or a pot is that it is actually very brittle. It's that brittle, okay, and this has been dried for many months, but you can see how brittle that is, okay. So yes, it's a great clay, but I personally wouldn't be making vases or anything with it. The only thing I would suggest is you could be doing something like this. So I've actually used DAS clay here, okay, and what I've cast is a, hi there Nicole, glad you could join us. What I've used here is DAS clay and a new mould that I'll be bringing to Create and Craft next Tuesday and Wednesday for one day special. But what I've done, I've actually used this beautiful mould that is like a bamboo effect, but in the middle it's a good old tin. So maybe you want to decorate a glass, and I would say that's the sure way of actually knowing that your clay is still going to be good on the outside and there's going to be no moisture actually getting into it. And obviously because it's been wrapped around something, it's going to be a lot more stronger. So I hope that answers your question, Jan. So I'm just going to pop that one back there. So I do believe we are on, is it question 5 now? Let's have a look what question 5 brings us. Okay. Yeah, this is a really good one. DAS clay. My DAS clay cracks whilst drying. What can I do to stop this from happening? Okay. The one thing I would say there is DAS clay will crack, and I'm sure if you've had any kids use it and they've left something out, after a certain amount of time it will crack. The reason being it's actually drying out too quick. Now I've discovered, because my workshop or my studio that I'm doing this live from at the moment is actually in my garage. Okay, the clay actually seems to dry a lot slower, which is absolutely great. But if you're going to be doing it inside in your house in the warmth, dare I say, then what you need to be doing there is, once you've actually cast something or made something with DAS clay, then simply just cover it with a piece of polythene, okay, or plastic bag, something like that, and that's going to stop the moisture from actually evaporating too quick. So basically, the quicker the moisture leaves the clay, the more likely it is to crack. Okay, right, so that's question 5. Let's go to question 6, hopefully. Can I leave clay in moulds to dry? Okay, well, that's a real simple one, really. And let's just bring in a mould. Okay, so let's have a look. We'll go for this one here, okay, which is one of Finnabair's moulds. Okay, so the idea is, yep, you pop the clay in like so. Okay, and can you leave it in there? Well, for one, you know, if you're going to be making lots of elements, you don't really want to leave the clay to dry in there. Okay, so the other thing is, because you're going to get shrinkage of the clay, then if it's a really intricate mould, what you'll find is when the clay actually shrinks, okay, it could actually crack inside the mould itself. So like I say, if it's like intricate, or indeed something like a frame, okay, if you can imagine that the whole thing is shrinking down, okay, it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, and then it's more likely to crack. Let's have a look what Carol said. I've used DAS clay to make 1.12 scale people for my doll's house. Oh, fantastic. No broken limbs yet. I dry mine in the garage too. Yeah, absolutely. So the slower it is to dry out, the better it is. Another thing you can be doing to make it slightly stronger is actually to put metal rods, or I think they call it is it armorage or something like that. I think that's what they call it, and basically it's just to strengthen the clay. So like I say, with this question, I would personally not leave it in the moulds. Okay, just simply just pop it out, okay, like so, and you're going to be good to go. Right, so that was question 5, or was it 6? Let's have a look. That was question 6. Question 7. Okay, how long does it take for the different types of clay to dry? Okay, that's a really good question. So for things like the clay that we've got here, which is the Hearty Clay or the FMM clay, something this thick, which is probably about 1/2 centimetre, I would personally say is going to be around about sort of like 24 hours or overnight. Okay, that's probably the best thing. And then it's going to be completely dry. With the air drying polymer clay, which was the Modena clay, okay, which was this one here, okay, this one, depending how thick it is, again, can take possibly up to 4 days, okay, to thoroughly dry. You'll know when it's dry because it does go rock hard. So that's the answer to that one. So number 8, question 8. Okay, can you mix Hearty Clay with Medina air drying polymer clay? Yes, you can indeed. So as long as you don't have too much of the Hearty Clay mixed in, you can. So I'm going to now grab out of my pocket, and the reason I popped it in my pocket is so it has kept it nice and warm, and therefore a lot easier to actually knead, okay, because beforehand it was rock solid. Okay, so I pop it in my pocket just for about half an hour, and then you can use it. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit out. Okay, so this is the Medina air drying clay. Okay, so like I said, that's my tip. Pop it in your pocket for about half an hour. So let's have a look, see if there's any questions. Okay, if you use air dry clay and leave it in the mould, the water goes to the bottom and it can make it stick in mould. That's absolutely true, absolutely true. Right, so there's our air drying polymer clay. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of our other clay, which is the Hearty coloured. Okay, so we're just now going to colour the Medina clay. So just grab a little bit of that and pop it in there. Okay, again, just pop that back to the other side so it's all nice and dry. Okay, and then you can just go with that. Okay, let's have a look. Serena, don't worry about it. So we're just going to mix that, and you can see that does exactly the same job as colouring the Medina air drying polymer clay as it does that one. Hi there, Charmaine. Charmaine's joined us as well. Alison, right. Did popping in my pocket last week worked a dream? Ah, thank you very much, Alison. Yeah, it does indeed. And that is the way also, if you're going to be using just normal polymer clay, this one is from Viva Decor, but there's loads out there. There's Fimo or Fimo, however you want to pronounce it. Again, just pop it in your pocket. So here we go. Right, there we go. And we have now mixed up some air drying polymer clay. Okay, right, so we have our two different types of clay, okay, side by side. By the way, you can also colour the Modena clay using your distress inks and your oxides as well. Okay, right, so what have we got? We've got question 8, and I will show a demonstration as well a little bit later. Right, question 8, let's have a look. Can you mix the, well, we've just done that one. I'm obviously I'm not ticking off the questions I've done right. Number 9, okay, right. Let me just tick these off so I know what I'm doing. Goodness me. Right, the clay sticks in my mould and I try to release it. What am I doing wrong? Okay, right, when you get a brand new pack of Hearty Clay, okay, if you grab that straight out of the pack and pop it straight into a mould, believe me, probably about 9 times out of 10 it is going to stick. So what do you do to stop it from sticking? Okay, there's a couple of different things you can be doing. The one that most people favour is this one, which is a good old corn flour. Okay, so what you need to do there is just basically grab some corn flour, okay, and just dust it into your mould. Okay, obviously make sure that your mould is completely dry beforehand. Charmaine's been cleaning her craft room. Can see bits of the floor now. You've got floor? Goodness me, that's one up on me. Right, so just go like so, and then just tap it out. Okay, so just make sure you tap it out. Now the reason I'm tapping out is because if there's any little bits of the corn flour that's like clumps, if they're in your mould, they will obviously replicate when you actually make a cast of something. Hi Louisa, Louisa's just joined us. Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. Oh, don't worry, don't worry. Right, so we're going to put that clay in again, okay. I'm using a Dresden tool. You can use your fingers if you want, or a bit of both, entirely up to you, as long as you don't use a sharp object on your moulds, then you're going to be good to go. So let's just take that off. Okay, and then just tuck the clay in. Now it's really important to tuck the clay, okay, back from the flat part of the mould, tuck it back into the actual bit you want to cast, and then give it a good old press down. The thing with a lot of clay is if you don't press it down and compact it, you're probably not going to get a really great definition of the detail from your mould. Okay, so there we go. Now the other thing you could be popping into your mould, apart from corn flour, is actually a vegetable fat or something like that. And again, you need hardly any of it. Just wipe that one round, okay, and that would be good. So again, just flex the mould, okay, like so, and again, it just pops out really, really easy. Now, there is one thing you can be doing, like I say, with Hearty Clay. If you're completely new, okay, and you've tried the corn flour, you've tried the vegetable oil, and it's still sticking in there, then what I'd recommend is when you take it out of here, just leave it to dry. And when I mean dry, I don't mean dry out, but just dry for about 5 or 10 minutes, so a little bit of the moisture is actually evaporated from the clay, and then pop it in your mould. If that still doesn't work, please do not give up, because you will get it, believe me, at the end. Talcum powder as well, Ian says, absolutely right. What moulds are the best ones to use with air dry clay? I'll answer that one in a moment, Stacey. So the other thing is, like I say, if you're completely new and all of those things haven't worked for you, don't worry. Just pop the clay directly from your pack into your moulds and then place it in the freezer for about half an hour. Then take it out, and believe me, you are going to get the most pristine casts from that. Okay, and it's particularly going to work for things like this. Okay, because trying to keep the oval of this frame perfect when the clay, and as you can see the clay is really floppy, okay, is near often impossible. So what I tend to do, especially for the frames, I pop the clay into the mould and then I set it for about half an hour in the freezer. Then you can pop it out. Now when you pop it out of the freezer, your clay has not set, okay, but once it's defrosted, then leave it to dry for 24 hours and then you will be good to go. However, if you want to maybe pop this frame around maybe a glass or a jug or something like that, then wait probably for about 15-20 minutes until it's defrosted, and then you can just lay it over there and it will then mould. Oh goodness me, Ian, are you totally ignoring Sam? Goodness me, she'll never speak to you again, never speak to you again. Right, okay, so that's those and that. Right, so Stacey's one, what moulds are best? Right, I'll be totally honest with you. The best moulds are the ones that are made from silicon. So I've got a couple here. We've got a Prima mould, we have got a Finnabair mould. They're obviously made by the same manufacturer. I've got a Karen Davis mould here. These, I've got to admit, these are probably the easiest moulds that I've ever used. But basically, as long as they're silicon and they're flexible, you should easily be able to pop the clay out. Now I do know that Stamperia have some moulds which they call the soft moulds. Basically that's a plastic mould. Again, you can pop those in the fridge or the freezer, sorry. I personally actually haven't tried those. I have got my eye on one of the brand new moulds that's got the Statue of Liberty on, so I will be trying that. But again, you know, I suppose it's just a case of actually flexing the mould, because you can flex these a little bit more than you possibly can the Stamperia moulds. I would personally say try to stick to ones that are made of silicon, but I don't want to do out any moulds whatsoever. Right, talking of moulds, why don't you make your own casts? Now what I've actually done here, okay, this is a couple of uses for the Modena clay. Okay, so what you can be doing is you can actually create your own texture. So I don't know if we can actually pick that one up. Let's see if we can. There we go. So what I've actually done, this is a product from That's Crafty, okay, and it's their texture paste. So basically I popped the texture paste onto a piece of MDF, and I think in this case I literally just like sponged it on, so it's given this beautiful texture, and I liked it so much I then cast it. So the way I did that, I just rolled out a piece of the polymer clay and then popped it on top of the texture and then just pressed it down. So now I have that, I can actually cast, or I can actually now texture my own clay. Yeah, it does look, indeed, it looks like a sort of a hammered card, but basically you can be casting anything, Louisa, that basically has a texture using that clay. So there is our Hearty Clay. So I'm just going to take this, which one was it? I think it was that one, wasn't it? Was it that one? No, it wasn't. It was this one. I've got a couple of different textures. So I'm just going to pop that on there and then just press that down on top of the clay. Okay. What about Zuri Molds? They look lovely. Yeah, Zuri Molds are beautiful, Linda. But what I'd say is, because they are so detailed, I would definitely pop those. Pop your Hearty Clay or your FMM Bright Light Clay into the molds and then into the freezer. Okay. So there we go. I'm just going to bring that one up to the camera. There you go. So you can see I've now created my own texture plates by using the Modena clay. The Modena clay is pretty flexible, and these have been dried for absolute months, but you know, they're still flexible even now, and you can cast whatever you like. There's another one there. I think this is sort of like an Artex type finish. Okay, we've got another one there, sort of like a stone effect that I've created, and here is a bit of Hessian. Oh, do you know what? Steve-O is in the house. Just so happens, Steve-O, I have a purple piece of clay. Great timing. Great timing. Let's have a look. Can you use stamps for texture? Yes, you can. That's where we're actually going to be going next. Okay, so we've explained all that. So what else can you use to texture your clay? Maybe you haven't got any moulds, but you've got some clay. Okay, so let's just again roll out some of our Hearty Clay. Okay, and let's grab, and I'm sure we've all got these, yeah, embossing folders. Okay, so you can pop an embossing folder onto there. Okay, and then we're just going to press down, okay, straight onto your embossing folder. Obviously don't run this through your die cutting machine. Okay, you can go direct from here. Now you will notice that I'm not using any corn flour. Okay, a little bit risky maybe, but I think my clay is sort of like dry enough so it won't stick. Let's have a look. Yep, indeed, dust them first, Louise. Yep, so Ruth, nearly missed you, says Ruth. Hi there. Right, so I'm going to peel this one off, and again, there we go. So the thing is, you know, people sort of say, well, why do it in clay? Why just not use paper? The reason being, if you're going to wrap something in paper, okay, it's not going to mould necessarily well to anything. I've got a plastic dome here. Okay, if you were to try to pop paper over that, it'd be near on impossible. But obviously with clay, okay, as long as you're pretty careful, okay, you can almost get it to mould to the shape. So don't press too hard that you completely annihilate the texture. That's just a quick demonstration there. Okay, great to see using purple. Well, of course I knew you were coming, Steve-O, that's what it was. So you can see there we've sculpted it or molded that to, it's like an egg shape in actual fact, and that's why if you were to just grab a piece of paper and using your embossing folder, you wouldn't be able to do that sort of thing. So that's where air drying clay does come into its own. Okay, right, let's have a look. Are we visiting Ali Pali or a standout? Well, do you know what? I'm not too sure yet, Steve-O. I'll be honest with you, not too sure, but I'll let you know. Right, so that's one thing there. Okay, another thing, okay, you can be doing, as somebody mentioned, they said about stamps. Okay, now I'm just going to go and grab a stamp because I actually haven't got one of those out. Okay, but we're also going to be using good old stencils as well. So let me just grab a stamp a moment. Right, that's the quickest one I could grab because it was then. It's like a stamp that you'd use on a postage thing. So it's like a postage like type stamp. But first of all, I'm just going to go over with this. Okay, so again, another use. So we've got a stencil here. I've popped it over the top of the clay, and by the way, I am using a non-stick mat underneath. Okay, let's have a look. Steve says he's visiting both days to Ali Pali. As I see there, yeah, if you're not busy. Indeed, Steve. If I do go, I'll let you know. Okay, so again, I'm just going to go over with a rolling pin, okay, and we're just going to pop that over there. And depending how wet your clay is, like I say, if your clay's too wet, you're not going to get anything. But let's just pop that there, and again, you can see we have now the definition of that particular stencil. So air drying clay is really good. Okay, we're going to just turn that over, and have I got, do you know, I haven't even got a block with me, a stamping block. No worries, I'm just going to pop that one on there. I'm just going to use the rolling pin just very lightly. Okay, and then I'm just going to pick that one up there, and again you can see, there we go, we've actually got the impression of the stamp. So there's lots of different ways you can be using all of the different clays. Right, let's go back to the questions and we'll just see. I think we're on question 10, but it could be 11, so let's have a look. Right, here we go. Okay, I've put clay into my mould as a frame design. However, when I release the clay, the frame cast distorts. What can I do to stop this from happening? Well, I think I've already basically answered that one. So that's the fact that if you're going to be using one with a a frame in, then what I would suggest is you pop your air drying clay, so whether it's your Hearty Clay, your FMM Bright Light Clay, or indeed your DAS clay, pop it into the freezer for about half an hour. And if you're still unsure what I'm talking about, because I can't demonstrate the freezer technique now, then please head over to my YouTube channel, okay, where you'll see that particular demonstration. So let me just actually go on to my website, which I hopefully can do. Let's have a look. Will it load? Here we go. Right, so we actually have my YouTube site here. Okay, so if you actually just scroll down, okay, and you'll see this one here, and it tells you to pop your clay into the freezer. So if you go into that, there we go, get rid of the good old commercial, as they always do on YouTube. Just pop that one there, and there we go. And this tells you it's using FMM Bright and Light Clay, but like I say, that clay and Hearty Clay are near enough the same. So please go on over to my YouTube channel, and if you've never ever been over there before, it'd be great if you could also click that subscribe button, and obviously like a couple of videos. Well, obviously if you enjoy the content, so please head over there and click on that subscribe button. Goodness me, it's just like watching ITV, you get adverts. Right, let's quickly go on to question 11, which is why are casts made from coloured Hearty Clay brittle? Well, again, I've mentioned that one, and basically it's because the Hearty coloured clays really aren't clay, or the content of clay in them is very, very low. So therefore, if you pop them into a mould and take a cast, then when you actually release it and it's completely dry, it's more brittle. So you do need sort of like a higher content of the white clay in there to actually make it more flexible. Well, there was a question that I saw, and Linda is asking what clay did I use with the embossing folder and the stamp. It was the Hearty soft clay, one that I'd coloured. You can also use the FMM clay, but you can also use DAS clay as well, and also you can be using the Medina clay, because if you look back at the live, you'll see that I've used some of the Medina clay to actually make some casts of some things as well. So I think that's question 11. So let's go down to 12. Right, I made a project a few years ago using white Hearty clay, but the clay has changed colour and now has a slight yellow tinge. Why has this happened? Right, okay, so with Hearty clay, okay, it is made up basically of a paper pulp and also like a PVA glue. Now, a lot of PVA glues on their own, they can sort of like well, they either go clear or they go a slight yellow, and that is why the Hearty does go yellow. So it's a bit like gloss paint. Okay, if there's no light to it, then you'll find that gloss paint actually goes a yellow colour. So it's very similar. So what I'd recommend is, if you're going to be doing maybe something that you know has got to be white, so maybe it's a swan or something like that, just for argument's sake, then even though you are using white Hearty clay to produce it, make sure that you paint over the top of it with white acrylic paint. That's the short way of actually making sure that the colour of the clay, although it will discolour underneath the acrylic paint, you won't actually see the discoloration. God. trying to get my teeth in. Right, so that's that one there. So let's have a look. So are we to question 12? Let's have a look. I made a project, that's that one there. So 13. Okay, this one is a really important one, and it's the fact that Hearty Clay, FMM Clay, Das Clay, even the clay that's made by the Stone Art and Powertex, they all shrink. Okay, so let me just show you just a little project, okay, that I've done, and then I'll explain how to actually do it so it works a little bit better for you. So, right, I'm just going to grab this one here. Some of you may have seen this from one of the shows I've done on what was the craft store, now obviously Create and Craft, and it was to actually make a frame. Okay, and I've used a beautiful mould from Karen Davis. This is a Karen Davis mould that I've used here to produce this beautiful frame. Okay, so now what you will notice is that obviously it's mitered, and then I've just popped it all together and it works. Okay, so the way to get the perfect fit is not to basically roll out your clay and cut it. Okay, you've got to roll it out so it's slightly larger in your frame and then let it dry. Okay, and let me just show you what basically happens. Okay, so when you have your frame, okay, just say you're cutting it out 45 degrees like I've just described. Okay, and then you start to build up your frame. So you've got your second piece, you then add your third piece, and you then add your fourth piece. Now that's great because it absolutely looks brilliant, but then you've got the drying time, and as we were saying, with all of the air drying clays you will get a little bit of shrinkage because that's the moisture that's actually evaporating from the clay and will actually make it smaller. So the clay will shrink by about up to 10%. Okay, so obviously the slower the drying time the better it is. But the one thing is the clay will shrink in all directions, so it's best to let the clay dry before you make your frame. Otherwise the shrinkage will create gaps where each clay piece joins the next. So you can see there from the little graphic that I showed, we got the blue frame that was the original one. The pink one is then taking into consideration that 10% shrinkage. So if you stick it down when the clay is actually dry, you'll get the look what's on the screen at the moment, which is down there we go. You'll actually get that. So basically where each individual piece is actually popped together, where it's shrunk, you'll get some pretty nasty gaps. There's a couple of things you could do to rectify that, and maybe it's making a clay butterfly, a couple of flowers that you want to put over those gaps, but the sure way without a doubt is to basically do all of your pieces one by one and let them then dry as I've done here, and then you can go in and then you can make the perfect frame. Okay, that's by far the easiest way to do that. Right, so I think that was that question there. So let's actually make something with some clay. Okay, so I'm just gonna, let's have a look, roll out some clay here. Let me see, I should be able to do this, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to make a simple rose, it says. Let's have a look, see if we've got enough clay here. Okay, this is the cutter, so I think we're going to have to roll this out, and you can roll Hearty Clay out extremely thin. Right, let's just have a look at some of the questions. Right, okay. Why does the clay curl after a time? Okay, again, Steve-O, that's to do with the drying rate. Okay, now this piece of clay here has hardly got any curl on it whatsoever, and it's been made for over a month. Okay, but it's because I've let it dry very, very slowly. If it dries too quick, it will just curl, because the rate that the water is actually exiting the clay is probably too much for it, and that's why you start to get that flex. Okay, let's have a look. It can absorb moisture over time, and that can cause it as well. Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's the other thing. So yeah, keep the clay dry after is actually completely set. Well, so I'm just going to keep on rolling this one out here. Okay, the great thing is, and again, okay, because I know this clay is pretty dry anyway, I can roll it out extremely thin. So you can see this is almost paper thin at the moment, and that's going to be good to go. Now this is a cutter. We've got Julie who joined us. Hi there, Julie. Glad you could pop in. So I've got a cutter here from FMM. This is the easiest rose ever. So I'm just going to pop that over there. And you can see that small piece of clay. Okay, we've made one basically cut from that. So let me just press that down like so. Okay, all the way around. Just press that down, and then just take off the rest. Obviously, because it's air dry clay, make sure you're going to pop that into an airtight container in between. I'm just going to use a couple of tools and we're going to make a quick rose. Okay, so let's just pull that one up there, and I'm just going to pop that down. Okay, now with clay, because it's basically paper pulp, okay, you don't want to drag anything over it because it will rip. So you want to roll. So what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to be using a ball tool, and rather than just drag the tool across it, I'm going to roll the tool. Obviously it's very difficult for me to actually show that, so let's just pop a little dot, okay, onto there, just so you can see that I'm actually rolling the tool as opposed to dragging it. Okay, so here we go. So that's the type of thing we're going to do. So I'm literally just going to go on all of those petals. Okay, and this is the simplest rose that you can possibly make, and it does give a really great effect. And you can see how thin, let me just hold up, you can see how thin that clay actually is. It's almost paper thin. Okay, so this is a firm foam former mat. Okay, so this is from FMM as well. You can use sort of like any sort of mat that's basically that it's foam, but it's not too soft. It's really important that the actual piece of foam you're going to be doing this sort of sculpting or shaping of the petals, okay, has got to be quite firm. So I'm just going to roll that round, okay, like so. So let's just go on there. So let's have a look. Angela says, thank you, Anthony, great live, really informative. Oh, thank you very much. I always think it's best to sort of like give all of your knowledge over, so then people can enjoy, you know, they haven't got to worry about when, or they know the answers to when things actually go wrong. Mouse mat works well. Yeah, as like I say, as long as the foam is not too thick and soft, then yes. But if you've got a thin piece of foam, then you might be able to get away with it being a little bit softer. So let's just go all the way around like so. Okay, and just keep on going. Okay, and again, just keep on. There we go. So you can see it's quite easy to actually do that, and you can see all those little petals there have frilled pretty nicely. So I'm just going to pop that over like so, and then we're just going to fold it literally in half. But we're going to apply no pressure here, because the thing with lots of the air drying clay, they will stick to themselves if they still are a little bit damp. Okay, what about paper pricking mat? Yeah, that would probably do actually, Serena, absolutely. Right, so we have our little piece of clay there folded in half. I'm just going to now take that, okay, and we are going to start to roll it. Okay, so I'm just going to go from this end, so I'm just going to pop this tool back in here just so it starts the rolling process. Okay, and then once I've gone to there, then I can just roll that, and you can see I'm applying no pressure there. Okay, so we're just going to keep on rolling. Let's have a look. Okay, so with this particular method of making this little flower, okay, is that you can cut another one or two of these and obviously make a larger rose. I'm just going to go for one layer just purely so you can see. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to apply pressure to the bottom part here, not the top part. As I said, with most air drying clays, because they are quite sticky, okay, they will stick to themselves. Okay, so now we've got to that point, we can now use another tool. I'm just using the sort of like the blade tool here, and these tools are from FMM, by the way. Okay, and you can see, there you go, you can use your fingers as well, and then just keep on going around there. Okay, obviously when you're at home you're going to be doing this a lot slower than I am here, and just tease those petals like so. Okay, so just keep on going all the way around, and you can see you can quite easily start forming a beautiful little rose really quickly. And normally where a rose is concerned, the center part is pretty tight little bud. Okay, so you don't necessarily want to go all the way, but you can see how beautiful and easy that is to do. Okay, so that's just making a little rose, like I say, with just one piece of air drying clay. We're just going to pop that aside there. I'm probably going to squish it down again because there's another demonstration. But what does a full rose look like? Let me just grab one. Okay, here's one I made earlier. Okay, so this is exactly the same sort of method, okay, to make a rose, and you can see it is paper thin. Once it has dried, again, leave it overnight. You will probably find that the actual core, okay, so the underneath bit, sort of like in the centre there, is going to take a lot longer to dry because it is quite thick. So at least 24 hours, possibly 48 for all of the clay to dry. But if you want to colour it like I've done here, I think you can just about work that out there. Okay, I've just literally just used one of these tools here, which is the blending tool, and then just pop some ink on and just dragged it over the top. Like I say, make sure your rose is dry before you do that, and that's a real subtle coloration that you can be creating on that. Right, so that's that one there. Let's have a look. I think we do have one last question, unless it's the same one. Let me just have a look. Okay, what types of glue can I use to stick my clay embellishments to my projects? Okay, right, so that's a real good one. So what type of project are you going to be sticking them to, basically? So if you're going to be sticking possibly something like this, which is clay, and like I said, this one is totally flexible. Okay, it's been dried for months, but it's still totally flexible. So if I want to stick that to maybe a sheet of paper, maybe it's a scrapbooking page, then I would use anything like a PVA type glue. That's going to be absolutely brilliant. If you're going to be wanting to stick it to possibly a glass, okay, object, then I would use something like Pinflay glue gel or Collao, something like that that's going to stick that. The one thing I wouldn't necessarily use at all, and that is a hot glue gun, because I find what happens there, after a time the hot glue gun itself, or the plastic, it actually melts. It does sort of like become slightly brittle, and you can knock things off really easily. Where the other glues, they'll actually soak into the surface of the clay piece, and it really bonds it nice and easily to things. Right, so let's have a look then. So we've got a beautiful little rose. Wow, the bigger one looks so realistic. Oh, thank you so much. Like I say, there is also videos, Judith, on my YouTube channel. Not sure if you joined us from the beginning, but my YouTube channel is there. Pop over there, there's lots of demonstrations on there. One of them is also including the rose. So go over to YouTube, and if you type in Mixed Media Arts and Crafts into the search bar, or my name, Anthony James Minnis, then hopefully that will bring up that video. Otherwise, go into the address bar of your browser and simply type in www.youtube.com/c/mixed media arts and crafts, and you will come to my channel. So there we go. Right, let's have a look. Love this tag every time I see it. Oh, thank you so much, Judy. I've made about 3 of them now, and it's just a really nice little project because it's sort of like just makes it so dimensional. Right, so what else can you be using your clay for? Okay, so obviously I've just shown the simple rose there, but maybe you want to decorate something, so maybe it's like a little box. This was, I do believe, there you go, you can see it actually says Nivea, although it's obviously back to front, but that's what you can be doing there. And I've used a border here just to go around the outside, again all made from air drying clay. Because this one wasn't a continuous border, then I just added some little bits in there just to cover where the joins were. With the top there, it's just a little mould that I've got, a rose mould, and then just some flourishes, but you can really build it up to create something completely different from what maybe the mould even looked like, but it will definitely help you upcycle loads of things in your house. Let's just quickly have a look. I will have a look for YouTube. Thank you so much, Judy. If, like I say, you are new to there and you like the contents, please feel free to click on that subscribe button. Right, Carol says, have you ever heard of people wrapping their clay in cling film or aluminium foil? Yes, that's called the I think it's the armorage or something. And basically what that does, it reinforces things. My son's actually made a model. Sadly I haven't brought it with me because I didn't know someone would ask that question. But basically I was mentioning earlier that the thicker the clay, okay, the longer it's going to take to dry. So if you get some tin foil and sort of like sculpt something that you want to make, and then you can wrap that in the clay, okay, and then your clay, like I say, is going to take less time to dry. But remember to pop a piece of cling film over the top of the whole lot, and then it will dry slower. Let me just see if there's any more questions. That was very interesting. Fancy trying it. Thank you for showing us. Oh, absolute pleasure, Dominic. Right, it's been really great to learn about different types of clay. You're absolutely welcome. So let's have a look. So some other things you could be doing with clay. Again, this is actually a real mix of 2 different clays. The actual plaque itself is made from Das clay, but so are all of these elements here. Okay, and this piece here, which is a Zuri mold, and that's actually been made with the Hearty Clay, so you can even mix the 2 different types. Right, before we go, and has anyone got any other questions regarding any of the clays, or you know, just anything to do with clays? So I'm just going to pop my YouTube address back on the screen and see if there's any other questions before we go. Okay, let's have a look. So, great live, thank you very much, Carol. Judith says, yeah, this is beautiful, love upcycling items, and it's so easy if you've got a nice selection of moulds to be playing with. Now, talking of moulds, I have actually got a one-day special show, which is, let's have a look, here's the details here. It's Karen Davies one-day special, it's next Tuesday, the 8th of March at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. I'm not sure if anyone's aware, but they've actually changed the one-day special times. Then on Wednesday, the 9th of March, then it's at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Just to let you know, the show on the Tuesday, the 6 p.m. will be with myself. But at 9 p.m, Karen from Karen Davies Sugarcraft will actually be there, and she'll be showing you how to use the moulds for cake decorating. So I'm going to be using them for mixed media. Karen's going to be using the identical moulds, obviously another set, for using with cake decorating. And again, on the Wednesday, I'll be kicking off the day at 10 a.m. with a bit of mixed media and the moulds. And at 2 p.m, Karen will be back showing you how to do cake decorating. Right. Samantha says, I'm going to play with my Fimo and tonight I need to attach it to an MDF plaque. So yeah, so with that, what I'd say, let's just quickly go back to this. Right, so with FMM clay, okay, that is not an air drying clay, so it is more like this one here, which is the Pardo clay. Now, so looking forward to your shows. Oh, thank you very much, Nicole. Right, let's have a look. So just quickly, although this isn't air drying clay, I know that I think Nicole's into a bit of polymer clay at the moment, but this one has been in my garage, so completely rock hard, but as if by magic I have another piece in my pocket, okay, keeping warm, okay, which is this piece here. So hopefully I've wrapped it in polythene. Obviously I don't want it to coat the inside of my, and look at this, there we go, it's not quite, but you can see it's far more malleable than that. I can't even press that one. So condition it, and when you say condition it, don't be worried about that term. So so Sam's actually using FMM or FMM air drying clay. Oh, super! I had heard they'd done one, but I actually haven't had a chance to actually go and grab any. So with this, okay, you can pop that inside your molds. So let me just grab a mold. This one here, this is a Karen Davies one. Okay, this one is actually on the show. So let's have a look. Samantha, Samantha's asking Nicole, how are you? Right, so let's have a look. Just like Nouveau drops, keep warm it. Yep. Well, Louisa, I haven't got one of those, so I'll put them in my pocket. Right, so with this, okay, what I find is sometimes you need a ball tool, okay, depending how hard your polymer clay is. But I'm going to just press that into my mould using a large ball tool. Like I say, nothing sharp, okay, but you will ruin it. As you can see, polymer clay does not stick to the inside. Okay, so let's just pop that into there. Right, are you using the porcelain one, Sam? What's that? Oh, hey, oh, is there a porcelain one then? Ah, there. You know, I think when we first started to craft all those years ago, I think it was really just FMM that everyone knew about. But there's just so many different types of clay, and all of them are good, obviously depending on the usage of your or where your project's going to be. So you can see I'm just pressing the clay. So this is this is just normal polymer clay, okay, normal polymer clay. It's just pressing it into the molds, and it really is nice and easy to pop out. Hi there, Jan has joined us, just about made it in the end. How's it going? Well, we've answered your question, Jan, but we can go back to that. So this is polymer clay. Now, like I say, with this polymer clay, it's not air dry, so you'll need to put it in the oven. I always put it on a foil liner. It's about 110 degrees this cooks at for about 20 to 30 minutes, but I keep on checking it, I'll be totally honest with you. Now, to stick this on, Sam, even though you're using the air drying FMM one, okay, you just need to, I would say, if you want to stick it to anything, just score the back, preferably when it's still in the mold. Okay, let's just pop that back into the mold, okay, so we're not squashing anything. So just score the back, okay, like so, go in a couple of directions. What this will help with is that when you actually use your either your like 3D glue gel or silicone, that will actually help just key it. Let's have a look. I've been playing with Das clay and loving it. I know you have, and you made some fantastic projects, Jan. All little houses with all little bits she's got left over. So, like I say, that will help key that. So that is polymer clay. Right, let's have a look. Loving the normal use. What's it? Loving this normal use air dry clay. Carol, which one do you actually use for the clay? You're saying air dry clay, but which one do you actually use? Can you tell us, and we'll see if we've actually got it. Okay. See, I do exactly the same on the back of resin casts to help them stick. Yeah, you know, I use Hearty Soft. All right, okay then. So this live's been completely relevant to you. Yeah, Ian, that's the thing. If you're going to be using resin in the moulds, then before the resin is completely set, just score the back, and then that again will make it nice and easy. Right, so I'm going to leave you guys. I hope you've all found it interesting. I hope you found it interesting. A lot of those questions are the ones that I've sort of like thought to myself, what will actually come in handy, you know, if I was starting out. And it's all those things where if you start something completely new, there's always questions that you come up with, and sometimes nobody ever answers them. So hopefully I've answered loads of different questions. Thank you to the couple of you who did put a question in. So that was Sam, Jan, Laura and Claire. So let me just take a look here. I experiment with Fimo, as has long open time. Obviously, yeah, it does indeed if it's not the air drying one. Gold star for tonight's performance, Anthony. Oh, thank you so much, Ian. Smith says thanks as well. Linda said, had some Hearty upstairs in plastic bags for years. Is it okay? Good question. Right, I'll be honest with you, Linda. Air drying clay, even if it's in a sealed bag, it does only have a shelf life for between 2 and 3 years, okay? But in saying that, if you're going to be keeping it next to a radiator, it's probably completely dried out. So if you have got it, make sure that you don't keep it anywhere near a radiator, and then it's probably going to be good to go for at least a couple of years. Let's have a look. Thank you. Oh, Fiona, hello there, Fiona. I didn't see you pop in there. Glad you could make it. Hopefully you found it useful. Julie says, really enjoyed the live. Very interesting. Thank you so much for all the tips and advice. Right, before I go, would you guys actually like to see a couple of samples that I've been working on for the Karen Davis show that we've got next week? I've been, like I say, making lots of samples using some beautiful moulds from Karen Davis Sugarcraft, but I'm going to pop those on screen now, and you guys obviously are the first to see them. So here's a couple of the samples, but please tune into the other shows. Let me just bring the show times up again. It's the one day special next Tuesday. Like I say, I'm launching the one day special at 6 p.m. using mixed media and all that type of things, but Karen herself will be there at 9 o'clock in the evening, showing you how to use the exact same design molds but for cake decorating. So if you've never ever tried cake decorating, seriously, if you can use clay and molds, you can definitely be doing cake decorating. And likewise on the Wednesday, I'll be there in the morning at 9 a.m. and Karen will be there at 2 p.m. Let's have a look. So I'll show you the video, then I'll just quickly come back at the end and just basically say goodbye. So I'll be back just after this video. So always inspire. Right, so like I say, thank you so much for all of you who have spent your evening watching me. I hope I haven't bored you all too much, but that's it from me. Take care, happy crafting. Like I say, if you can, and if you're interested in any of the molds that you've seen the samples for, please do join or tune into the shows on Create and Craft. Let me just quickly bring that up once more. So the new Create and Craft is available on Sky 673 FreeSat 817, Freeview on 85. Virgin, I do believe it's 748, I'm not totally sure about that. It's also available on Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Roku, and obviously online at www.crateandcraft.com. Right, well, I am going to leave you all to it now, so thank you very much for spending the evening with me. And like I say, if there's any other questions you've got that you didn't pop into the comments tonight, but you want me to try and help possibly, then pop them into the comments and I'll check back in a couple of days' time and I will answer them. So again, thank you so much for watching, and take care.